Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Doha Heat Podcast. Today, we have two guests with us from Doha British School, DBS, and they're starting a really fun initiative to raise awareness about women. So let's get started, actually. Tell me a little bit about yourselves.
Okay, hi, my name's Kate, and I'm the head of primary at Doha British School. This is my fourth year being the head of primary there. We came to Qatar. My husband works in the school and I've got two children as well. Daisy, who's 10, and Charlie, who's 7, so it's a whole family adventure that we're on at the moment.
Oh, you all are in the same school?
We're all in the same school. So my husband's the head of year 6.
How does that work?
It's good, but it's worth a consideration before you maybe think about doing the whole working all together abroad.
My mom used to teach in the same school I used to go to when I was, because my mom is also in the education field, and it wasn't very great.
I know. I think my kids love it because they can just come in. So Charlie will come in for a cuddle whenever he likes, and Daisy will come in as well. So they have the security of mummy being at school. My husband doesn't do that, but it's great.
Yeah. Well, my mom used to make jokes about me and tell all my friends all the crazy things I did at home. So it was kind of
you got to
awkward.
kind of watch what you say. But
yeah.
It's good. It's good. Yeah.
Okay.
It's successful.
All right, what about you?
This is my second year in Doha, also at Doha British School, but in the secondary school. No husband, no children, so just do my own thing. But I'm a French teacher there and also the CAS coordinator for the IB programme. So kind of looking at encouraging young people not just to focus on their academics, which are obviously, hugely important, but equally so is having something else to say about yourself. So I really enjoy that side of the job.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry, did I forget to mention your names? Kate and Stephanie.
Yeah, Stephanie, that's right,
Yeah. So, okay. So tell us a little bit about how you got into athletics, and because you're in academia, so that this is something that must be your passion or a hobby. So, yeah.
I suppose it started for me. I've always been a jogger, but sort of like a once a week recreational, nothing serious at all. And if it didn't happen, I wouldn't care, that type of runner. Did that for years and then even stopped doing that for a while. And I'm a British Army reservist in the UK, and I have been for a number of years. So that forced me to kind of keep vaguely fit. But an email came through one day saying, do you want to come and ski across Antarctica? Try and be selected to be the first female military team to ski across Antarctica. And I thought, this is a joke, I'll never make it. But I applied, and then that really got me into fitness properly. So that was probably 4 years ago now. And never looked back, really. And I didn't make it to the final team, but I was in that selection process for months and months. And every month they were kind of cutting people, and there was some big cuts of the women who were going through the process. And then when I was finally booted out of that process and wasn't fit enough in the end...
So you were working here?
I was in the UK at this time. I was in the UK. Then I thought I need a new challenge. So it was December 2 years ago that I signed up for my first marathon. And that's when I started running. Sort of I wouldn't even say seriously, but with a kind of routine and a training programme. So that's been 2 years now in the running world, and I've met loads of interesting people, one being here today. She doesn't think she is. She's I've got nothing to say about myself. Loads to say, loads of interesting women, men of all ages, of all backgrounds, and I run with Doha Bay Running Club. So there's everyone there from people who power walk because they're injured or because they're a bit older or whatever, all the way up to people that have competed at national and international level before. So it's a really good mixture.
Okay. Yeah. And when you mentioned you were a British Army reservist, can you explain a little bit more to our audience and to me? What that?
The Army Reserves are trying to grow the Army Reserves in the UK and reduce the main body of the British Army, if you like. So the reserves are becoming increasingly important, and they support what regular Army units do.
And you volunteer to be part of that?
You volunteer to be part of it, yeah. And you're paid to be part of it, but you can... you choose sort of how much you do or how little. So there's a minimum number of days that you must train per year. But you can do, almost as much as you wish and as much as your employer will allow you to. So it's kind of finding that balance.
Okay. And why did you want to be part of that?
I just love the thought of the adventure and the training you get and the courses I've been on. And again, the people I've met. It kind of attracts a unique set of people who all have their day jobs, but then at the weekends they want to go away and do interesting things.
So
I really enjoy it.
And then what happens, when do they actually ask you to
That
join?
depends.
Or?
So that's again on a voluntary basis largely, and obviously in recent years there's been quite a high demand for the use of reservist troops. But currently it's a case of sometimes you can be supporting the regular army on a long exercise, for example, or you could be based in a regular unit and you provide ongoing support, or obviously there are one-off kind of jobs and opportunities you can go on. And usually that's done by what you call a trawl. So they'll send out an email, and if you match the skills, you'll kind of put your hand up, if you like, by email, put your hand up, and then you're selected and trained, and then you deploy. And very occasionally you'll be required and kind of forced to go on something, but that's rare.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
What about you? How did you get into all of this?
Completely different kind of story. So for me, much more of a usual route for women, maybe in certainly not any kind of way in athletics group I'm in. I've run on and off probably for the last 20 years, but very much off rather than on, from having, running before I had kids. But again, just recreational running. I never wanted to enter anything. I had a kind of a fear of not being able to complete it and do it. So it sort of put me off doing anything. So just running for my own pleasure, and usually just for a sense of sort of personal satisfaction rather than having to win a race or do anything. So everyone has always said, enter a race, it'll motivate you. They actually don't motivate me. For me, just doing it for myself is the thing that motivates me, and making sure I feel fit myself. So it's a completely different route for me.
So it feels more individual.
Totally individual. Okay. I don't feel like I'm a team player in that sense, which doesn't really help this dynamic. But like people say, come and... you think I am, but come out running. I actually don't want to do that. I want to stay in my own bubble when I'm running and listen to my music and shut myself off from the world, which doesn't help when you're trying to build a team, Steph. So I appreciate the fact that she's stuck with me. So we're going for this big run tomorrow, and now for Steph it's probably half the distance it's a third of the distance that she'll be doing, 90k, but I'm only looking for the 30k. But tomorrow it's about a 36k run, so that's quite daunting for me because it's the first time I'll have run with the group. I've kind of purposefully shied away from it, and I've done all my running training on a treadmill, whereas everyone else has run outside. And the reason for that is just so hot here. So when we were doing our initial training back in April, May last year, I was just dying doing it outside. I just couldn't get my breath, so changed the whole thing for me, put myself inside, did loads of reading about it and stuck to a training plan the same as everyone else has, but needed to do it on the treadmill. I spoke to Steph a number of times saying, is it going to be okay? Will I be able to make that transfer from inside to outside? And so far it's been okay, but tomorrow's a bit of a test for me. But for me it's about getting up in the morning rather than actually the run. I'm not thinking about the Ks, I'm thinking about how do I get up at 3:30 in the morning to get ready for a 5 o'clock start.
That early?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's a whole thing to process. But doing the whole thing, you realise you can run, and it's at that point where you stop calling yourself somebody who does a bit of running to actually a runner. So when do you start considering yourself in the present tense rather than something that you sort of do on the side? And I think all of us in the group are getting to that point where actually maybe we are runners, which is a nice transition to take, and thinking you will carry on after this 90k. It's not, for me, it can't be just about this thing, because you change quite a lot about your lifestyle when you do this, and the commitments that you have to take and the sacrifices that you have to take. So it's, for me, I don't regard myself in the same way as Steph does with running, but it's a different journey, but hopefully we'll come to the same point at the same time.
I hope so. On the 25th of January.
On the 25th of January,
so tell us a little bit about this initiative. Like, why did you start it and why running?
Well, Steph started it, but if I do it answer it slightly backwards. So Steph asked for interest in the school of all the women that are the female teachers, the female staff in school who'd be interested in taking part in the first female crossing of Qatar on foot. So it's 90k from the point of starting to Duqm Beach, and initially so much interest. I don't know how many it was initially that
a lot from the school population. And I thought there's maybe more to this than.
So the school population, I mean at the moment I don't know how many, Steph has the numbers or how many teachers are taking part. And then over time, it's sort of, I was quite daunted by the thought of 90k. I thought, wow, that's like 2 marathons. Oh no, even more than 2 marathons. So how do you get your head around that? So,
and how long do you think it would take?
Well, if I was going to do 90k, it would probably, 12.
Yeah, maybe
12 hours.
Definitely over 12 hours we're looking at for this. Yeah.
So to manage it in my mind, I thought, no, I've got to do it 30k. So I'm doing a relay part of it. So there's 3 of us, and I'm doing the middle 30k but with the understanding that I want to be able to carry on if I can. And then if I did 60, that would be amazing. So in my mind, that's sort of my motivation in the back of my mind. But Steph will give you the background to how it all came about, because there's a male race that's part of this whole thing as well. So
I don't know if you've heard of Qatar Ultra Runners. So that's a group of 4 or 5 of our Egyptian friends from Running Club who last December had organised at fairly short notice. Like, they had this great idea, they didn't really know how to go about it, and they just kind of put it out there on social media, who'd like to run across Qatar, this 90k route. It's in 6 weeks or 8 weeks, and everybody sort of looked at each other and thought, oh, well, most of us had run one marathon maybe, so we'll give it a go. And they got nearly 30 people to start and 4 people finished. I think there were 6 women started and 2 of the finishers were women.
Oh, wow.
So I thought, actually, as a proportion of the women that started, we did better than the men.
Yeah.
And the guys were so excited that their first race had been a success that they grew it so much this year, started planning it much earlier, went through more official chains, got sponsorship and got loads of people. I think there was 80 people on the day started this year. So that was 2 weeks ago, and they had lots of finishers, lots of women and men finishing, and they opened it up to relay teams as well, which really boosted the profile of it and encouraged lots of people to join. And I've been talking to a few of the relay people since, and they've said, next year my challenge is to do the whole thing. So that's really great. And I just thought, how about an all-female event? Because I started talking to women at Run Club, and they said, oh, well, we do our 5Ks, we do our 10Ks, but to be honest, on these long runs, it's always fast, younger men. We don't feel we can join in there, or like Kate was saying, you start to panic that you won't finish something, and then that means you won't finish something. If you started panicking, you're probably not going to finish. So I thought, how about I try my own event? And initially I wanted to keep it just within school, and sent out that email back in March, early April. And quite a few people got back, and I remember the first meeting took place in my classroom, and I just had this really bad PowerPoint and a handout, and was like, okay, what do you think? And I just thought they'd kind of show up and we'd maybe meet from time to time. And then I realised that night I was flooded with questions, which was great. And I thought, right, I'm going to have to take this a bit more seriously than just show up and hope for the best. And since then it's become a bit like a part-time job for me, really, just constantly, daily looking at to-do lists, and loads of people have really helped, especially in the last 2 to 3 weeks with sponsorship. But things like T-shirts, medals, the route, keeping everyone updated, keeping on top of everyone's training, the kind of team morale side of things.
And everyone's different needs as well.
Everyone's
it's
different.
Such a disparate group, isn't it? It's very, very varied needs. So, and the things that I want from Steph and the knowledge base that I want is not the same as somebody who's been doing ultra marathons already. So for Steph to be able to balance everybody else's needs, I think maybe a part that you didn't necessarily appreciate.
Anticipate that,
would happen. Part of it.
I know.
She's been
I've learned a lot doing it. I remember saying at one of the first meetings, like, I'm not a professional. I'm in no way medically trained. I'm in no way a trained runner. I've run, I think at that point, 3 marathons or something. All I can say is what's worked for me and what hasn't, but I've got no idea about any of you who are sitting in front of me. And now I do have a lot more of an idea about the people that sit in front of me, but it ranges from, people who, we've got ultra runners in our group, and they've been great at sharing experience. One of our team members, a lady called Bryna, she's a former race walker, used to represent Great Britain. She brings a wealth of experience at long distance. We've got other people who've done ultras and marathons, and then we've got some in our larger relay team. There's 7 women in there who've never run before. And for them, getting to 10K is a big deal. And one of those legs on that relay team is a half marathon. And she's not done that much running before, but sets herself a challenge every year. So that's Shuba, one of our colleagues. So 2 years ago, she learned to ride a bike. And it doesn't matter what age you are. And she told all the kids in assembly the other day, I only learned to ride a bike 2 years ago. And that's no shame in that. It's a challenge, isn't it? And for her, this half marathon will be a challenge. So,
and I think that the relay that has lots of different legs is a strength of this whole thing, because it goes to the very core of why we're doing this, which is to appeal to all different types of women. And those women that don't fall into the stereotype of what you would expect from an athlete, they're running maybe 2K or 5K, and it's really inclusive.
Yeah,
I think
so
that's
like-
one of the joys
okay.
of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And some
it's
people are definitely fit enough to do more, but they've said this year I'm doing 30 because I've just started a new job. I'm really busy and overwhelmed with that. You know,
Yeah.
I'm going to stick to the relay this year. Or there's other people, you know, some of our ladies have 3 or 4 children and a job and a husband, and they travel and they've got pets and, you know, a lot more than I'm juggling. So for that reason, they've stuck to the relay this year and they're kind of dipping the toe in the water. And next year, I hope to see them do the 90, you know, so... Well, they don't know that yet, but
They will now.
that's the plan. Yeah.
So I know you're raising money for a cause. So do you want to talk a little bit more about?
Yeah, sure.
What's the cause?
So we're raising money for Free to Run, which is a charity which was established by Stephanie Case, and she's a great human rights lawyer and also an ultra runner. So she wins lots of things and competes in things that it's very unusual for women to compete in, you know, big races. And she now lives in Afghanistan, and she tries to put on events, and usually hugely successfully, that enable women in conflict zones or in countries where it's culturally really not acceptable for women to run, particularly alone, and enables them to do so in a safe way. So whether that's with mapping or logistics or just having kind of people there to guard them sometimes, or just giving them the confidence. So there's the physical side of it, but then also once they've become recognised as, oh, that's that girl or that woman from our village who does the running, they then become local spokespeople and they gain in confidence, and then they share their knowledge about health and well-being, and often in these places mental health is a huge problem as well.
Yeah.
But it's not recognised, or there isn't the money or the infrastructure or the expertise to deal with the fallout of the conflict, because there's been a conflict usually, you know, it's kind of the need is there, but not the facilities.
Yeah.
So it's just the power of running. And I think we've even felt that in our group, not that we're in any way living in a place like that, but it's that coming together and, well, not with Kate, because she doesn't run with us. No, no, I'm joking. No, but when we do group training and the group meetings, we've all got this one thing in common, and it's amazing what you learn about people when you're running. You just seem to overshare sometimes. I don't know if it's because you're running in a straight line.
You're next to them.
You're next to them, you're not looking at them.
It's like when you're talking to your children and you want some good information out of them, you don't talk to them face to face, talk to them side by side. And
That's
it's
interesting.
like car journeys are good for good conversations.
Yeah, definitely. And a lot of people have said, a lot of the women have said, you know, I feel like I've had kind of free therapy from the running. So we just get together and run, and it just gets the tension of the week out, and it's more. Also Erin, another team member, she's a yoga instructor, so she's been encouraging us to incorporate yoga and stretching and, you know, time for yourself in your busy weekly life. So that on a small scale kind of mirrors what Stephanie Case does on a massive scale with Free to Run. So
So then you guys are going to raise money and then send it out over to Stephanie.
Yes, exactly. So we're raising online only by Just Giving. So I don't know if we can maybe share the link there or something. So that's great. And so far that's been really successful. The page was just launched about a week ago, just over a week ago. So far so good. And then we anticipate a little dip over the festive break, and then we'll be back on it in January.
Yes, I mean that sounds amazing.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that it's inclusive to all women from different ages. I think you mentioned that. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Different strengths, different ages, different.
Yeah, I mean, I'm 44, so I'm probably top end of the
Top end.
women that are involved in it, and then we've got some.
They'll be delighted.
Everyone else is delighted. And then we've got teachers. Well, I can only talk about the teachers that are involved, really, because you know more of that due to the fact that my lack of team dynamic. So we've got some younger teachers who are in their 20s. So we've got 25. A whole range of different shapes and sizes, and and it's great to see that coming together under one thing for sure.
Yeah, and is it difficult to like motivate yourself to do this every day?
Probably not you so much, but
no, I mean I think for me,
ingrained in you.
I mean, for the other women, like you mentioned, that they have kids and
like
family and all of those things to juggle.
Yeah, you've got to juggle it.
So how do you find the time?
Well, you've got to juggle it. So I mean, I alternate days that I go to the gym with my husband. So or I go earlier and he goes later. So you've got to just have a clear communication about how you're going to do this whole thing, and also know that on that date, on the 25th of January, is all about that date. So all the things that you might have to sacrifice along the way. And I haven't, I'm sort of sounding like I've sacrificed huge things, but some people have had to sacrifice more than they wouldn't necessarily. But it's just that understanding. And I think because families are on board with the support system that's around the event, husbands are there to make sure that the bags are full of stuff, there's snacks there, there's food there, there's water at the right stations, or travelling alongside the people when they're doing the run. So all of that, it becomes not just about the person that's doing the running, it's about a family that's involved in it as well. So, and I think all the kids, all the people who've got kids, they know what's going on, they're excited about it. And like my daughter and my husband have put my playlist together for me for the run. So I've got 100 songs, and and it's a surprise because I've only listened to about 7 songs. So as we run tomorrow, it'll be the first time that I listen to this playlist. You only listened to
7 songs?
So, I have, because I've only given it recently. Okay. So I've only listened to the first 7 so far, and there's 100 songs.
That's
nice. That's really nice.
That's kind of a part of the support thing as well. So it'll be interesting to know what those songs are as we go through, and I hope that my husband's got a slightly different taste than me, so he'll be interested. Daisy's hopefully had her input on it, so
that's really
nice. It's interesting.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. So you said that there are ways that people can support. Do you want to talk about like all the different ways? I think you mentioned that people can even come to the site.
Yeah, sure. I mean, on the day we'll be starting from Costa on the Corniche, so that will be from about 3:30 onwards. We'll be dropping off our bags there and then setting off at 4:30, maybe 5
a.m.
AM, just to clarify. We're still fixing a final sort of departure time, but early. And then if anyone wanted to be in Dukan at the beach at the end, that would be great. It's really nice to be cheered on at the end when you're sort of very close to your limits, I would say. So we're estimating to be there about probably 7 p.m.
Okay.
So that's on the 25th of January. I mean, people will see us along the way as well. So the idea is that we're going to follow the old road that runs parallel to the Dukan Highway. So people can quite easily, it's largely traffic free. We'll have our support vehicles going up and down checking us. We'll spread out slightly over the course of the day, not by too much, but you will inevitably get people who are feeling good and want to push on a bit, and then later they'll fall back and we'll catch up and so on. So we'll be spread out a little, and we'll be being supported by vehicles. And we've got a huge Qatar flag, and we're looking at getting a flag with our own logo made on it. So people will see us and they'll be able to come along and beep the horn or hand us some drinks or whatever they want.
Yeah, definitely. And how can people reach out to you?
They can reach us through our Facebook page,
Instagram,
and we've got a hashtag Q90K, and we'll share the Just Giving link at the end as well. So
all right, awesome. Okay, so you guys know what you should do to support them. I love initiatives that support women. Anything about women empowerment, love it. So thank you guys so much for coming.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Well, I had a great time. Thank you. Thank you, and have a great week. See you next week. Bye-bye.